I've always been a huge fan of pretty much every like religious zealot gimmick that comes through wrestling. I think it's just such a good marriage. How did the Mordecai gimmick come up? Who pitched that, and how did it come to be?
Again, don't quote me on the exact cities and dates, but it was basically after WrestleMania 20, I think it was 20, in Madison Square Garden.
Uh-huh.
The next, me and Travis Tomko, Tyson Tomko, Bane were a tag team at the time, and we've been for almost 6-7 months. We had been on the road with WWE, just working house shows.
Mm-hmm.
Just two big guys. We went in there. We just, probably potated the shit out of everybody. We were just, two big, strong guys and stuff. And I want to say it was Boston, somewhere in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Vince brought us into a room. It was Vince, Stephanie, and John Laurinaitis. And basically, Vince was like, look, I would really like tag teams, but you guys are a great tag team, but I don't need tag team wrestlers. I need single stars. Here's what we're thinking. What can you pitch? And I said, I always did this thing, since the dawn of the 7 deadly sins, and being 7. And basically what I pitched to him as being this, just extreme Catholic, psycho that, everything's a sin and everything, is wrong and all this stuff. But then too, I pitched to him that really and truly at the end of this thing, you're God. I'm doing all this, and Vince went, whoa? And I mean,
he was sold right there, I bet.
100%. 100%. And it was like, and I still remember Johnny going, that was probably the smartest play you've ever done, kid. It was just, and everything, talking about, the master and guy, all that stuff and all the Mordecai promos, we're talking about Vince, and eventually it was going to come out to, I was down to Vince, and Vince was God, and, all this other stuff. And from that point, the next day they took me, and the next day was in Boston, because I remember this specifically, was they had me go in the room and do promos. And Vince, from what I understand, never, young talent, whatever, can't give two craps.
Right.
He came into the promo room and was watching me do these promos. The next thing you know, him and Taker go into some room and they come out and Taker's just smiling at me. He's always, I always was a fan. Everything else, he goes, "You did good, kid." And I was like, "Oh, what's that mean?" He goes, "Don't worry about it. You did great." And it was basically, I knew at that point I'm going towards Mania from this point on, and however many pay-per-views, and I'm gonna end up going against Taker.
Was that verbalized at some point that this was eventually going to lead to a program with Taker?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
100%. Was it also? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but was it also verbalized?
No.
Do you think it was heading to where you were going to be the one to defeat Taker?
Man.
Or did you not get that far in the planning?
It could have been, I guess, and that comes to me. This is a podcast. I can cuss, right?
As much as you want, brother.
Okay, there you go. Well, I won't cuss that much, but I fucked myself. I really did. It was me, Maven, and Sly. My wife, which at the time was my fiance. A couple other my roommate, which was a girl, with us, and another girl, and we went into Bar Louisville, and basically this kid just kept fucking with us, and my wife basically told him, "Hey, I wasn't even drinking this night.
Oh.
I was stone cold sober. I knew the future ahead of me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess anything up." And next thing you know, I come back from the bathroom, my wife's bawling, all this stuff, and this kid, is just trying to fight us all night long.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a bottle down by his side. He starts to walk up, and I'm like, well, I guess here we go.
Yeah.
And I mean, and somehow my head met his head, and he's on the floor doing the Terry Funk, and I'm hard weight in the head, and we're walking out, and all I know is I am fucked.
Right.
And the next day we're in Houston, Texas. We go down there. I fly out, and then my wife calls, and she's my fiance at the time, and she's bawling her eyes out. She's like, there's detectives here. They want to take you to jail. Oh. And I'm like, I guess I got to go tell Vince. I have no choice, but I got to tell, and I walked in there, and they want to deal with it, and they think that they can help me out and everything else. And, in the long run, it was all about, they thought that I was going to be worth $50 million when really and truly I was on a downside developmental. I was making about $35,000 a year. So, I mean, what were you really going to, get me for yet? I hadn't even signed my official contract, going into Mordecai, that I could have done anything, and it crashed and burned. I still remember being in the ring and Taker just looking at me going, "You just fucked everything," And
he said that to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And it was my fault.
Yeah, but you were trying to. I mean, in your mind, I'm sure you were protecting your wife or your fiance.
I was protecting my wife and protecting the friends around us and protecting everybody. And it would have escalated a lot more because his friends wanted to jump in and everything else. But it was made with such an impact that it was basically everybody around was like, we're not messing with you.
Right.
You're scary. You have white hair. You have a white. you look like an albino freak, and if we're not, and now you're bleeding from your head. So it just quickly, dispersed. Granted, I looked like a giant tampon at the time, but it was what it was. It's one of those things that I look back, man, and I know. This conversation would be so different right now, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it still worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would imagine wrestlers can be targets at bars for drunk assholes a lot.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And from that day, till now, I have walked away from more fights. I have, I learned my lesson so well that day that I have, basically been at the mercy of anybody and everybody and stayed away.